comes and I don't feel alone. I wanna go to the sea again.
Merry meet everybody, this is Phoenix Aurora, and I decided I would go ahead and start getting back caught up with making videos, especially since I've been promising videos as far as a series for Aphrodite is concerned, and I hadn't even, I've done the research, but I hadn't started to go ahead and make videos. So today I went ahead and took down some of my notes just to kind of keep me on track while I make this video, and go ahead and start doing episode or what have you of all about Aphrodite. And the two topics that I'm going to cover today is some of her characteristics, supposed characteristics from people that I have heard worship her, people on YouTube whose videos I've watched who claim her as their matron deity, as well as things that I have read either in books or online about Aphrodite. And that's kind of where I'm getting how I feel and what I understand. Of course, what I understand doesn't necessarily mean that that's what everybody who worships Aphrodite sees her as or understands her to be. So I'm not claiming that she's my matron deity and that I have worked with her and that I know exactly what I'm talking about because she has appeared herself to me. That has not happened, and I'm not trying to imply that that's the case. I'm just coming at this from an educational student perspective. So if you see me looking off, it's because I have my notes right here, and I'm sitting right next to my bedroom window, which I've recorded some videos, pointing out this window in the past, and I just thought this would be a good spot because the lighting, now it's better. The lighting is better, and because I am sitting next to the altar that I made up for Aphrodite, and it's nothing special, to anybody but me. But anyway, that's enough about nothing really having to do with Aphrodite, just the altar that I have for her. But let's get started. So some of her characteristics that I have written down here are flirty, coy, sensual. She has been linked with bisexuality. She has been linked with promiscuity as well. And I think that has to do with one of her names and the mythos of her having come from Uranus, which kind of ties her to male sexuality, but I'll talk about that more. She has been, tied with that, with being free, being naked. If you look at a lot of the depictions of her, she is usually not wearing very much, maybe a toga that is revealing of her chest or things like that, because she is a very sexual, very sensual, very emotional, kind of passionate deity. From what I understand, that's what she's meant to depict, to bring forth. That's just what I've gathered. I'm not saying that that's the end-all be-all truth. I am simply learning and trying to share what I learn with other people and have open discussions about it. So falling in love fast is another one. Falling in love period, but being hit with Cupid's arrow, so to speak, is very much associated with the goddess Aphrodite, which only stands to reason because Cupid, or Eros, as he is otherwise known, is her son. There is also alienation from some other women, not all other women, because you can also look at her link with the Amazons, and this is a group of warrior women, so certainly not all women. And it does seem to be the case that when you are a strong and independent woman, you can find yourself kind of isolated from other women simply because they're either jealous or intimidated by your strength and by your confidence. And especially if you're in the kind of religion or cultural belief where the woman is supposed to be the submissive, helpless creature, then you're kind of going against that. So you can be isolated by other women who aren't necessarily the kind who are also strong and bring one another up. Sorry about that, guys. That was my husband. Anyway, so she is also the goddess Aphrodite associated with being touchy-feely, with being emotional, empathetic. And if you understand the story between her and a very handsome human being by the name of Adonis, and the fact that he died and she mourned for him, she was a great mourner, is how she's described after his death. then you can see how she feels things very deeply. And so that's something that interested me and kind of, drew me to her, being that I am an empath. I am the kind of girl that, if there is this touching moment in a movie, you are going to see tears running down my face. I can't help it. I do feel things very deeply, and I don't necessarily see that as a weakness. However, I do have to be careful around certain kinds of people. Anyway, she's also seen as nurturing and compassionate, as a peacemaker, and as very much protective as anyone would expect any kind of, matron or mother deity to be. But those are characteristics that I have found to be associated with the goddess Aphrodite. A lot of people can see her, I guess, the mainstream perspective of her is this, bubbly, lovely, somewhat into herself, very materialistic is the perspective of her. And that's not necessarily a well-rounded view of this particular deity, in my opinion. Again, I'm not priestess or anything like that. I am just simply expressing my opinion and what I understand as far as the goddess Aphrodite. I do know that one of the mythos as far as the birth of Aphrodite is concerned is that a lot of people know that Zeus fought with his father and, took over Olympia, or Olympus rather. But he ended up castrating his father. And it is said that from Uranus's severed member having been cast off into the sea, the foam that bubbled around it, out of that, Aphrodite was born. And so, as I mentioned earlier, that ties her with male sexuality. That's why a lot of the times she is seen as a promiscuous deity. She is seen as, basically doing whatever she wants. It's not what is typically associated as far as acceptable female behavior. And however, Aphrodite didn't really give a shit. So that is why it is believed that she has that tie with male sexuality. And of course, a lot of prostitutes back in the day, that was their matron deity. That is who they worshipped, because that is who helped them, maintain their careers and succeed in their respective line of work, so to speak. So one of her names is Aphrodite Areia, after her connection with the god Uranus. Aphrodite Areia, from my understanding, represents spiritual love, a more heavenly kind of love, not just the more physical, passionate kind of love. That one is more typically associated to Aphrodite in the mythos as Zeus and Dion's daughter, Dion being a Titan goddess, and I believe a water nymph. And that is her representation as far as physical love is concerned. Aphrodite Pandemos, which is a more public rather than private kind of love. Then you get names like Aphrodite Areia, which connects her to the god Ares, the war god, because she does have a warrior aspect. Aphrodite wasn't just this, peace and love and happiness deity, all rainbows and sunshine. She was also a fighter. She was also a warrior. And that's something that that really drew me to her in particular, because, yes, I believe in spreading love and acceptance. However, you do need to stand your ground and protect yourself, and sometimes that calls for you to fight. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Anyway, so that's Aphrodite Areia, her warrior aspect. And I think that again connects her to the Amazons, the warrior women in the Amazon, popularly portrayed by Xena Warrior Princess, the TV show. She was made an Amazon. I believe her, sidekick, Gabrielle, was also an Amazon. And, there were quite a lot of episodes with this group of Amazon warrior women, standing up for themselves and fighting and kicking some ass. And I loved it growing up, and I still do, even though the effects are really crappy compared to the effects that we have in this day and age. But That's neither here nor there. I'll post a link to where I'm getting all this information in the video descriptions for anybody who wants to do their own research and look into this for themselves, and not just take what I'm saying at face value. Of course, I don't expect anybody to be like, oh, okay, this is what Phoenix said, it must be true. If you want to do more research and learn for yourself, then I'm all for that. I don't blame you at all. That's what I would do. So I'm going to put the link at the bottom for those who wish to have the ability to do that. So anyway, another name for the goddess Aphrodite that I came across was Aphrodite Melina, which relates to her as a black or dark goddess. Melanin is, dark. Albino is the opposite, white. But so Aphrodite Melina is sometimes associated with the goddess Parvati or Durga Kali, who is a destroyer goddess. And that's just kind of goes along with the whole, you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. Horus is associated with the goddess Aphrodite or Venus in the Roman tradition. She does have this not just warrior protective aspect, but a warrior as far as a destructive aspect, in which sometimes destruction is necessary for something better to be born. It's kind of like the phoenix being born of its own ashes. And I have it tattooed on my arm because that is something that obviously resonates with me. There's also Aphrodite Nikephoros, which is kind of like a more femme fatale aspect. I may be nice to look at, and I may be sweet and caring and everything, but don't think for a second that that means I'm weak. And I absolutely love that kind of aspect of the goddess Aphrodite, in which it's don't think for a second that I'll take anything lying down, because I'm not. It is also the comet in Greek tradition. I'm not sure what other traditions this may be the case in, but in Greek traditions, the comet is associated with the soul, and a lot of the times Aphrodite is associated, with the angelic image, just beautiful, perfect kind of human being or human-esque being, so to speak. So I found that connection really interesting, because I have always believed in angels, and I know that that's more commonly thought of as a Christian kind of belief, but I don't necessarily feel that way. But I do also kind of somewhat feel that if you were to say, are you pagan, are you Christo-pagan, I would say, well, I do have Jesus in my heart. I love his messages of love and acceptance. Do I feel that he is the Son of God? Well, we're all God and goddess children, but is he like God in human form on this earth? I don't think I have the right to say yay or nay. My personal opinion is that he was definitely divinely inspired and had divine abilities as far as, turning water into wine. I mean, come on now. But kind of on the fence. I kind of look at him more like Buddhists look at Buddha. Not necessarily like as God, but he is definitely somebody who has ascended and whose spirit is beautiful and whose word should be listened to and should certainly be spread. Do I believe in the Christian God? No. That's you don't necessarily believe that Jesus himself and Christianity, whereas Christianity comes from Jesus Christ. That's where they get where the intention of the Christian faith comes from. However, that's not necessarily what they deliver, in my opinion, but that's not to knock the Christian faith. People who are Christian and who practice what they preach and try to be good people love you. You're the kind of people on this earth that make being on this earth worthwhile, and doesn't make me lose all faith in humanity. And if you're this kind of person, it really doesn't matter what religion you are for me to feel this way towards you. So back to Aphrodite. See, this is why I have to have notes, because I digress so quickly. My mind is just all over the place. Anyway, some other names that I found worth mentioning in this video is Aphrodite Areia, which connects her to the goddess Hera. Aphrodite Areia is literally of Hera, or of marriage. So she's not just all about sex and fun and pleasure. Aphrodite is also about loyalty and nurturing or your relationship and marriage. Then there's Aphrodite Nikephoros. It means bringer of victory. That kind of correlates her with the idea of fertility as far as prosperity and luck are concerned. She is a deity that people turn to for money spells, for example. So I felt that that was an interesting correlation and a name worth mentioning as far as names that she is known as. Aphrodite is also known as Aphrodite Pontia, which is of the sea, and Aphrodite Xenia, which is of the foreigner or traveler. As some of you may or may not know, Aphrodite has often been a patron deity for sailors and for people, you know, who are traveling to worship her and call to her for protection. So I thought that was worth mentioning as well. There you guys go for now as far as some of the things that I have learned and found out about the goddess Aphrodite and that I felt were worth sharing with those of you that are actually watching this video, if you've even made it to this point and decided to watch it all the way through. So thank you for that if you did, and please leave me your comments and let me know what you think. And as always, I hope everyone's doing well. Merry part and blessed be.